Thank you so much to our chair and ranking members. Thank you so much, Congressman Flood, as well, for being here today, and thank you to our witnesses. I know it's been quite a long day, so thanks for joining us. I'm happy with the progress our committee is making on stablecoin legislation. The most recent draft includes many of my suggestions, like protecting state regulators, adding consumer protections, and ensuring banks can safely hold digital assets in their custody. I hope that we can all come together, put politics aside, and reach a bipartisan agreement on this legislation. Not only is passing a stablecoin bill essential to protecting consumers and encouraging innovation, but it's also vital to providing much-needed regulatory clarity. The SEC's regulation by enforcement, which we've seen ramp up in the last week, is only going to send digital asset companies offshore to places like the Bahamas, where Americans will have no protections. Additionally, as I've said before, stablecoin legislation can reinforce the dominance of the US dollar as the global reserve currency, all while making it stronger, more accessible, and more competitive. Mr. Laird, first question to you. Can you please describe the privilege the US is afforded because the dollar is the dominant global reserve currency?
Thank you for the question, Congressman Nickell. As is often referenced, the dollar presents the United States with an exorbitant privilege, and that is in many forms. I think that privilege is around low borrowing costs for the government, for households, for businesses. I think strong preference in commerce and trade internationally, which helps grow opportunities for people and businesses here, as well as the execution of soft power around the world. And in an environment today where that's being challenged, it's more important than ever that the U.S. Take every effort to strengthen dollar competitiveness. And I would agree with you that the stablecoin bill is a significant step towards increasing dollar competitiveness.
Thanks so much. And in your testimony, you said, quote, currency competition is real and is increasingly defined by technological competition. Perhaps no nation understands this better than China, end quote. Mr. Laird, as we're designing stablecoin legislation, how should we think about currency competition? Would the most recent draft of the stablecoin bill ensure that the U.S. dollar remains competitive, safe, and accessible?
I think it would be a huge step forward in that. The United States competes with highly competitive technology companies, financial companies, and open, free, and fair markets in a rules-based system. That has served us incredibly well in the development of the internet. It has served us incredibly well in the realm of payment technology innovation. And I think an innovation like stablecoins, it can also be the leader globally. Critically, stablecoin legislation, as currently submitted to the committee, does in fact create, I believe, the safest digital dollar in the world. It creates a mechanism to ensure that there's a competitive market for the issuance of that by banks and non-banks, and that those firms can compete in that technological competition with constantly upgradable blockchain infrastructure and be competing with state-driven actors such as China.
Thanks so much. Mr. Garrison, moving on to you, I'd like to talk about the majority's market structure bill, which I'm still reviewing. I'm encouraged to see that we're making progress, but I do have some concerns with this current version of the bill, which I understand is just a starting point. Whether you love crypto or hate crypto, you should support market structure legislation. This would safeguard consumers while updating our security laws to work with modern technological innovations. And frankly, burying our heads in the sand just is not an option here. Mr. Garrison, can you please explain the dangers of congressional inaction on digital asset market structure? Specifically, how would consumers be harmed without clear regulations that encourages companies to remain here in the United States?
So if the status quo were to continue, I think it would harm investors and consumers. It harms the participants in the digital asset ecosystem, and it ends up harming the U.S. economy. There is a lack of a federal regulator over the spot markets for digital assets right now as we speak. So anyone trading on a digital asset platform in the U.S. is at the mercy of the platform's own controls and procedures and processes and compliance with other laws outside
Gentleman's
of the
time has
securities.
expired.
Thank you. Yield back.